victories we saw for Eternatus, it was didn't bench his Asian, and then play Professor's Research, no basic Pokemon, and just gets benched. And then we saw the super aggressive, really early KO, what players often call a donking Pokemon. That's the kind of level of win we saw from Eternatus. So we just saw Matias play a phenomenal game to a very high standard, but this is a much more difficult task. So let's head on over to the game and see if Matias has an option against this deck in a way that the Eternatus players we saw yesterday unfortunately just didn't.
So Matias is this time going to be on the top of your screen. We are going to be following from Alan's side, and that's really where the story lies. It depends on what Alan can do. He's the one putting the answers to Matias and saying, hey, if I can get Zamazenta, it's going to be a good game for me. And out the gate, you start with it. That's where you want to be. No shenanigans coming in this game. It's going to be early Pokédoll down, early Zamazenta down. Looking pretty good so far.
Absolutely. Of course, that Zamazenta's got an ability, which means it doesn't take damage from attacks of Pokemon VMAXs. And we've just seen Matias's deck in a whole bunch of detail. And let's just say there is, well, there is quite a lot of VMAXs. There are other options, there's Spiritomb, etc. They do not match up well against Zamazenta.
Yeah, especially when you throw Mallow and Lana into the mix, of which Alan does play 2 copies. Matias is identifying the power of Spiritomb early on, and their energy attachment goes straight onto Crobat because you need to use your alternate Pokemon this turn, this game, I should say. You can't just rely on good old Eternatus pummeling through everything with 270 damage. You're doing 0 into Zamazenta, so you got to get a little bit creative. Use the 2 Spiritomb, the 1 Hooper, and your Crobat Vs to try and do chip damage into Zamazenta and slowly whittle it down.
And a lot of the game is going to end up being, come on, don't draw Mallow and Lana. Because if Mallow and Lana comes out at the wrong time, you know, it's a couple turns of chip damage down the drain. You're only going to get so many turns of it. Alan, for his part, we see an energy going on to Lucario and Melmetal, and there is a capture energy, which gets another Zamazenta, which is lovely, but there are a couple different options here. One option is just straight Zamazenta, I can do this. The other option is, let's actually use that Full Metal Wall GX, let's reduce damage done by 30 naturally, then you build in the Metal Goggles, which reduces damage by 30, and at that stage, when you combine the healing, taking 60 less damage from each attack, it is so difficult to KO those Zamazenta.
Yeah, even though Lone Zama is an option, you can do some funky things with tempo and force Matias to make plays that they don't want to. The pressure of Brave Blade being able to knock out Crobats, the pressure of that Full Metal Wall GX allowing your Pokemon to be even more tanky, but also remove energy from Matias's Pokemon. These are things that you always have to navigate in addition to the Zamazentas this entire time. So it's not as easy as find your answers, build those up, hope they can beat the Zamazenta. There's also, you know, good old Brave Blade to deal with in the back as well.
Well, that's the thing, you know, Zacian is still one of the best attackers we've got in the game. Free energy, bearing in mind the ability and Metal Saucer, both of which can get extra energy on. 230 damage, it's a lot. We do see some spike building for Matias here, and we do have some energy on the Crobat and on the Eternatus. There are options coming in there, but you'll see that, Alan, here, we've got 5 prizes worth of non-Zamazenta on the board, and as we've seen in previous matchups, that is where it's going to stay. You do not bench 6 prizes of non-Zamazenta. That is a great way to lose the game.
We do see Alan is going to go ahead and piece out a tag call here, get a few supporters, does pick up the next Metal Energy, could start committing this to the active and allow yourself to have the extra tank ability. Could even just be using the GX attack here for the tanking alone and foregoing the energy removal. That's exactly what we are going to see here. Just say, it's going to be very, very difficult for you to deal with my Zamazentas from this point onwards.
Yeah, and there's not really any energy that's worth getting off at this stage. You know, the Eviltail's got none on. I mean, I suppose maybe you'd want that 1 energy off the Crobat, but that's not terribly important at this stage. I think, Alan, here, what we need is exactly what we've got. You get your Zamazenta out, you get your damage reduction into play, you save your Mallow and Lana for the perfect time, and, you know, those Spiritomb, they can do 160. It actually turns into 100, and then a Mallow and Lana turns it into nothing.
Yeah, it's a hard slog for Matias. All the damage is going to get removed in a number of turns, I would say. We are going to see the switch into Eternatus VMAX, then a Crobat comes down for a few additional cards here. You still take the prizes as they lie, because it's impossible, basically, if you to get through 2 Zamazenta. What you need to do is you need to deal with the Lucario Melmetal, deal with the Zacian, and then hope that 1 Zamazenta can get whittled away. That's why we are seeing the boss's orders now to deal with the first Zacian.
And once again, and I love this play, Matias on turn 1 dropped that Galarian Zigzagoon and put 10 damage on that Zacian. You'll notice Matias there hit for exactly 210, which wouldn't have been enough, but for the Galarian Zigzagoon being dropped. Now there is a bench space saved for maybe a Crobat next turn or something along those lines. And once again, we are getting those KOs, you know, really thought about a couple turns in advance. That's a really nice way to go about it. So more real heads-up play for Matias here, taking that first KO.
Alan is going to continue to thin their deck, tag calling for Guzmahala. This is going to allow them to get more energy attachments. Power Plant, not useful for either player here. Both of them using this stadium card, but neither of them wanting them in play at all here, because neither are using any GX Pokemon that have abilities. We are going to see a Metal Goggles come into play. I'll likely see this go onto the Zamazenta. And yeah, fairly happy to pass here. Could spend a switch if they really want to, but it's always nice to hold your switch outs to play around poison damage when you can.
And that Lucario Melmetal is out of range at this stage. With the damage reduction, you need to do 290. You max out at 270. Oh, we do see a heads-on Crushing Hammer. That could be important. And with 2 Galarian Zigzagoon, that would actually get the KO. One of them's been used. There is no way that there is a one-hit KO coming down there. So Alan knows that not only is it not getting KO'd, but we're not going to get any cheeky Galarian Zigzagoon KOs like we saw in the last game. It can take a hit and be fine.
And Matias opts to take the Coating Metal Energy. It's something that they can derail with Yveltals, but playing around Metal Saucer right now, so good thing to bear in mind, just checking Alan's discard pile, seeing what options are available, not wanting Zamazenta to come out a turn early if you are getting that heads-on hammer. You don't want Alan to just immediately have Saucer value, so we are going to see the second Spiritomb come down, a lot of Spite being built up in the back, a couple Crobats, each with energy, so Matias has lined up his bench with plenty of attackers and is slowly getting through this Lucario Melmetal with the active.
Yeah, it's going quite well in that regard, but, you know, the first 5 prizes are easy. It really is going to come down to, can they KO a Zamazenta? And look, they're doing a pretty good job. They've got 2 Spiritomb out, they are building Spite. It could come down to something as simple as a Marnie and just hope. And if Alan does miss Mallow and Lana for just 1 or 2 turns, that could be all that's needed to actually go and get the KO on that Zamazenta. Matias doesn't care if they have to go through a couple of Lily's Pokédoll. That's really not terribly important. You know, that Lucario Melmetal, it can be boss's orders at some point later in the game. That doesn't really matter. The only important thing is, can you chip away at that Zamazenta and then just deny Mallow and Lana just for a turn or 2? That could be enough to swing the game.
Yeah, and the good news is right now, you know, Alan can no longer put down Zacian, so your Marnies are hopeful still, of course, but there's no backup that Alan can just pass with Pokédolls in the active and top up his hand size to get back into these Malolanas. There's already been a lot of tag calls played, so the outs are dwindling for Alan to actually have the Malolanas at this stage, which is the good news. The bad news is Zamazenta's ready to start smacking, and there's also boss's orders in hand. You could begin to start taking on some of these Spiritombs if you'd like to.
I think you've got to, absolutely. They are the ones, as weird as it sounds, they are the ones that are threatening. That Eternatus VMAX essentially does nothing. Now, I mean, you know, that Spiritomb could have done 100 damage, and the next Spiritomb could have done 100 damage, and we can poison with Crobat. These things can add up over the course of a couple of turns. There's another Spiritomb on the bench, but that had 2 damage on rather than 5. It's not the same. We do see a heads-on Crushing Hammer, and once again, Coating Metal Energy playing around those Metal Saucer plays.
Yeah, it's interesting. It looks like Matias basically never wants to use Yveltal. Sometimes you can use that Crushing Hammer heads in addition to Derail to take 2 away all in 1 turn. Matias saying that I want to poison you first, hope that I'm whittling away damage-wise, as well as trying to use these derails later on in the game, potentially. As we see another boss's orders coming in. Both Spiritombs denied from Alan. Target these down. Make sure that Crobat is only doing tiny bits of damage. And, you know, there are switch outs galore already in Alan's hand. So, yeah, you've already dealt with 2 of the big threats. So this Zamazenta's going the distance by the looks of things.
Yeah, it's too good at this stage. Like I say, those two Spiritomb combined, and they would actually still be a little bit short, unfortunately. But, you know, little bit of poison damage, couple of Spiritomb. You're talking about a free hit KO, but it could have been a legitimate free hit KO. Unfortunately, that's no longer an option, and you see Alarm there just starting to attach that bent Zamazenta. I get the feeling that in the not-too-distant future, if we don't see a Mallow and Lana, we are going to see the other Zamazenta.
Yep, and Alan can simply switch back into this Zamazenta now, removed its status condition, and can start getting to work on the Crobats. Has drawn into one of their 2 copies of Mallow Lana, so yeah, again, they're in such a good position at this stage.
I mean, this is the point in the game where if you're Matias, you are thinking about conceding the game. This is the point of the game where you look at it and go, I don't really know what to do. I do have 2 Crushing Hammer left, but my opponent's got Metal Sorcerer and a backup Zamazenta. You know, they are not about to be run out of energy. I can't really Boss's Orders try and stall them because of all their switching cards that they played. There's only 3 easy prizes on the field and I need to take 4. What do I do at this stage? I had my chance of double Spiritomb. That chance has now gone. So, you know, it's something like a Hooper's doing 30 damage. That's not much. And then you're giving up a prize just for doing that 30 damage. It's so much to ask at this stage. You can KO a Zamazenta in this matchup, but you've got to have, you know, basically 3 attackers ready to go and hope there's no Mallow and Lana. There was a chance, but I think we've gotten to the stage of the game where that chance has passed.
Yeah, especially with the Crushing Hammer hitting tails. There's no stopping the Zamazenta that's currently in the active position. This could be a heart-wrenching Mallow and Lana. If Alan chooses to use it this turn, even draws into a Birdkeeper, so could then just Birdkeeper and reset the Lily's Polka Dot as well if they'd like to. They have all the answers right now they need.
Yeah, it's just looking too strong. We do see the Birdkeeper into that Lily's Polka Dot, of course. You've always got the option of just putting that back on the bottom of your deck and just grabbing yourself a Zamazenta back in the active. There's still a Lily's Polka Dot ready to go. So the poison has been reset, and now both those Crobat are 1 Assault Tackle away from being KO'd, and that will be the game, essentially. That will be the last 4 prizes. So I've seen Matias's deck list. I've seen this game playing out as it stands at the moment. I'm not sure what Matias's plan here. And that's not to take anything away. Matias has played beautifully in all the games we've seen them. But Alan is doing exactly what he's supposed to be doing here.
Yep, and has thinned his deck as well of plenty of these cards as he's gone. Matias can get their last Crushing Hammer in, also a Tails, which means this Crobat will certainly be getting knocked out this turn no matter what. Alan, if he's feeling like it, he could again play a switch here and even attach to his backup Zamazenta just to really put the squeeze on. Is able to Cynthia Caitlyn, is going to remove a Metal Energy, can grab back Birdkeeper or Boss's Orders. Boss's Orders could give you a 2-turn clock here.
Yep.
Instead, you know, he has turns for days anyway, so he's just going to go into the backup Zamazenta at this point. As you see, the 4th energy coming in. Actually going to see just attacking to the active. I mean, either way, there's so much health remaining on this Zamazenta that it's not a huge issue at this stage.
No, there's no way it's getting KO'd on Matias's next turn. And Crobat's actually not a terrible attacker. 70 damage plus poison is not your optimal strategy, but you'll get there soon enough. Especially when you're not being 1-hit KO'd back. The problem is that combination of Full Metal Wall GX and Metal Goggles means it's not 70 plus poison. It's 10 plus poison. Matias puts an Eternatus in the active here, but realistically, the only thing that's actually happening here is it's buying a turn or 2. It's not actually getting Matias any closer to winning the game. So we see the new Zamazenta coming active, and we see all the damage being healed off. I've got 2 fresh Zamazenta now, and they've even all got both got an extra energy just for good measure. But at this stage, Alan's just going, you know what? If I just need to randomly Assault Tackle into a few more Pokemon, if that's what it's going to take to end this game, you know what? I'm totally down with it.
Yeah, slow and steady. Among the 15 cards in his deck, there are Boss's Orders, so it's just waiting till he draws into them. And Matias can see that. There's no way that he can win in a conventional prize race at that point, and he also had less resources remaining. So, yeah, just has to concede that the Zamazenta got there this time.
It's just unfortunate. You know, Matias is in such a bad position in this particular game. It's hard to deal with those Zamazenta. You've essentially got a few turns early on in the game. You know, maybe you get that magical, you know, go first, turn to solo KO. Maybe your opponent accidentally or has to bench too many Pokemon in order to not get benched, and then you've got the easy prizes. Maybe you can get that turn where you do get the Zamazenta in that kind of early to mid game. But when we get down to the stage of the game we were at a moment ago, there is just nothing Matias can do at that stage. The Spiritomb are gone, the Crobat are doing 10 damage plus poison, the Mallow and Lana are in the deck, and you're playing out for a few turns. You try and see, you know, maybe your opponent makes a mistake. Maybe they draw absolutely nothing for a couple turns, and you can get an improbable KO with, you know, 10 damage a turn plus 10 between turns. But the reality is, when you get a few turns into the game, if you haven't managed to establish one of those win conditions, every turn your chances just get lower and lower.
Yeah, Matias wasn't able to piece together enough Marnies, I feel like, in that game, because Alan was just having timely supporters. Timely bosses orders on the Spiritombs, meaning that Matias couldn't get any value out of them, and then a late game timely Malolana to remove what was essentially like 4 turns of work, unfortunately, for Matias. So, yeah, trying to keep your opponent's hand size on the low. I think Matias identified dealing with the Zacian early is really integral to just deny those Intrepid Swords, and hope that just the lack of draw that deck has means that there will be games where they don't have the timely supporter cards.
No, and that's absolutely what you're hoping for. So a difficult game for Matias, but not unwinnable. So let's head on over then into game 2 and see if we can see this Eternatus deck pulling out an improbable victory. Of course, we are in losers round 12. Now, the bad news about losers round 12 is if you lose, you are out of the tournament. The good news about losers round 12 is that if you win, you're actually through to global finals.
Yeah, and Alon kicks off with good old Capture Energy Zamazenta start. That's exactly where you want to be. Matias is going to kick things off, has the Eternatus V starting. We also see a Great Ball. Early Spiritomb, always good. You want to try and build that spite, as we keep mentioning. We haven't actually seen the Spiritombs attacking too much, unfortunately. So you have to trust us that it is a useful card. We just haven't seen them just yet. But we do see an energy drop for Matias. Also Crobatting for a few cards here. I imagine outside of this, we'll just see building Spite and probably passing it over to Alan eventually here.
Yeah, it's nice to get that Spiritomb down, start building up that Spite. We know what the plan is, right? Alan has shown us very clearly what the plan is. Those Spiritomb, and look, Matias has got to put them down, has got to start building Spite. There are no other cards like Spikemuth that other decks might play to get more damage on those Spiritomb early. So you've got to bench them, you've got to use building Spite, and essentially you've got to hope that your opponent doesn't just use a boss's orders and go ahead and KO them. Easy? No, not even remotely, but in a matchup like this where you go in unfavored, you've got to take every little chance you can. You can go into the matchup thinking, well, this is unwinnable. It's not a really great way to think if you're trying to win. Or you can go in thinking, right, I'm unfavored. Here are my routes to victory.
It looks like Alan is going to go ahead and capture for Zacian. You know how important it is to get those cards into hand. There's currently no draw support whatsoever going on. So Matias really is going to look for boss's orders on turn 2. If you can have that explosive turn, Crobat, VMAX, attach, boss's orders, try and get enough Pokemon in play to one-hit knock out the Zacian on the bench, you really stifle the draw for the entirety of Alan's rest of the game. They either put down another Zacian and they can continue to draw, but then they can't use Lucario Melmetal, so Zamazenta is far less tanky, or you're stifling the draw for the remainder of the game. So this could be a huge swing turn if you can make the dream work.
It really could. And Alan's hand here is not strong. Like, not even a little bit. It's a very bad hand. Now, don't get me wrong. You've got enough energy to power up the Zamazenta, and you've got boss's orders to take some cheeky prizes, but you don't have any other Pokemon to switch. You don't have any of those healing options. So it is, you know, potentially couple turns, nothing going on. Maybe with a couple of bad top decks, Matias can whittle down this Zamazenta. This is the kind of hand you want your opponent to have in this matchup.
Yeah, absolutely. The window is open here right now, as Alan is currently not getting anything rolling. Having a quick look through the discard pile. Another Spiritomb on the bench now, and Matias is just going in. You can't boss's orders, you may as well get some damage in while you can, and There's obviously no real threat of a Zamazenta attacking you this turn, so get the damage in while it's here.
Yeah, absolutely. You're going to be able to get another hit next turn. Now, does bring up the Eternatus, which is actually kind of annoying, but we do see an Intrepid Sword. I mean, this is one of those awkward situations. What Matias really wants is a Marnie and a Boss's Orders. Now, we know you can't play 2 supporters in one turn, not unless you're behind on prizes and using Lieutenant Surge's strategy. So, Energy, Boss's Orders, KO on the Zacian would be awesome. And actually, you can use Mallow and Lana if you don't have any other Pokemon out. Of course, we can see that Alan's hand does have a Capture Energy, but then that wouldn't actually pay the attack cost for Zamazenta here.
Yeah, it would be an awkward choice. You'd forego an attack, allow a Spiritomb to hit you again just to get another Pokemon down. That doesn't sound like a good trade-off for you. It would open up the Mallow Lana plays, but then you'd just be bringing up more Zamazentas and just hoping to top deck out of it. The only good news is Alan still has a ton of time. There's still, that Capture Energy Mallow Lana play is available. Even if you're not attacking for a turn, you get another Zamazenta into the active just to buy yourself time. But Matias, they've been in worse positions in this matchup. It may just be, here we go. Boss's Orders stifling the Zacian V here. You love to see this. This is huge.
We got enough Pokemon on the bench. We got enough energy on the Eternatus VMAX. We've got everything we need. And both those Spiritomb are now rolling. So what does Zamazenta do? You can attach and Boss's Orders and take out something like a Spiritomb. But if you do that, you don't have any backup Pokemon. You can't Mallow and Lana, etc. Or you use Capture Energy, so you do get another Pokemon. But Zamazenta's attack cost is Metal, Colorless, and there's already a Colorless on there, so that would mean another turn of not attacking, of taking a hit, but it would potentially open up Mallow and Lana even as early as this turn. Looks like Alana is favouring the energy and the attack, but honestly, if I'm Matias here, I want to Marnie so badly, and if Alan doesn't pull another Pokemon out the deck, there can be no Mallow and Lana plays, and this is what you're looking for. This is the break you need. It's not easy, but you can try whittling down that Zamazenta over the next couple of turns.
The Boss's Orders choice does deal with one of the 2 Spiritombs for Matias, the most aggressive Pokemon he can use in the matchup, but as you say, only one Pokemon right now. It's one of those things where the Marnie seems okay because you're hurting the hand cards. Crushing Hammer coming in is really nice. It does open up a Derail play now as well if you want to. And Crobat does draw a few cards here. Marnie's strange because your opponent doesn't have Tag Call, they don't have Quick Ball, or you think they don't have Capture Energy in their hand because they would likely have used it last turn, but they actually are going to go for the Marnie here. It's a lower hand size, but you can already identify a lot of the cards that aren't in your opponent's hand based on what they've been doing the last few turns. And there is a Tag Call now.
With the Crushing Hammer heads, I love this. I love that because now you take Zamazenta down to just 1 energy on there with a potential of derailing again next turn if your opponent does with the energy attachment. And they've got the Tag Call. That is upsetting, but I think that's what you had to do here. I think you had to try and just strand that Pokemon in the active. Again, we're talking about marginal plays. We're not talking about these big plays which are likely to win you the game. We're talking about taking every chance you can. And this isn't perfect, but it looks like we're actually just going to see a GX attack here to get that protection for those Zamazenta in subsequent turns.
Yeah, you have to feel like it's going to be a GX attack here. Attaching to the bench does seem reasonable, but you want your Lucario Melmetal to stick in play for more than 1 turn. And you can only do that by GXing in this spot because you can't put the Cape of Toughness onto the Lucario Melmetal for any effect at the very least. So we will just see the Full Metal Wall GX. We are actually going to see a Tag Call real quick to thin the deck a little bit further. It is going to have another look through here, see what else is remaining in the deck. But it looks like Alan has stabilized a little bit for now.
Yeah, absolutely it does. So we do see the Full Metal Wall coming out, and that is just going to give protection. It's going to make Matias's job so much more difficult. And now we are getting, unfortunately, towards what we saw in the mid-game last turn. We do see a heads on Crushing Hammer, so there's no energy on any Zamazenta at the moment. And that's big because now this Spiritomb on the bench is starting to build itself up again. We see another Marnie. Of course, at this stage, Matias knows that Alan does have supporters in hand. We all saw those Tag Calls coming down. So, actually, no, to be fair, can't actually play that Zacian.
Yeah, this is actually a really awkward hand for Alan, to be honest. The Dread End not taking the KO thanks to the reduction of Full Metal Wall, but Matthias has, again, seen Alan's hand where there were a bunch of supporters, mining them back into that low hand size. There is energy metal saucer plays available. I think you go to the healthiest Zacian, the Zamazenta at this point, and you're hoping that Pokédoll next turn can buy you time, because Alan cannot afford to use Zacian anymore.
No, because then that's 5 non-Zamazenta prizes with, well, 4 prizes left to take. That is not a position you want to be in. So back over to Matthias. Now, Matthias is going to get a KO here, but unfortunately we saw Metal Saucers, so there is a Zamazenta ready to go. We do see a Crushing Hammer. Oh, Matthias has been flipping well on that. Not that time. And now this is kind of awkward, because as much as we've got that 5 damage on the Spiritomb there is every possibility that Alan does have an energy in a boss's orders, and it is going to be going on. And we know he doesn't, but Matthias doesn't know that.
Alan looks like he's promoting confidently the Zamazenta. Can't attack with it just yet, but wow, rips the energy off the top like it's nothing, and now he's just assault tackling away.
Well, now you see where the confidence comes from. He's like, it's definitely going to be an energy.
Heart of the cards. That's pretty awesome. Starting his assault now onto Matthias's board. There's a Crobat now raring to go. Looks like that's going to be the first option for Matthias. Can't find any switch outs, though, so they're stuck with their hand. This gives Alan simply another turn to draw. It's not a supporter card, but can continue to keep the pressure on here.
And if Matthias has got a switch, there is a gleam here. Not a strong gleam, but there is a gleam. Get Eternus out the active and just start attacking. Start attacking with Crobat, start attacking with Spiritomb. Maybe Spiritomb a little later, it is rather fragile. If Alan grabs boss's orders for Spiritomb, that's a very bad thing. Oh, now this I like a lot. Now we got an energy to retreat, don't need no switch. We've got a 0 energy Zamazenta, and Matthias has seen the last couple turns from Alan here. They have not been great.
Let's see how Alan can draw. Does get a Pokédoll. That's changing nothing right now.
Nope.
Just gonna have to pass and let some poison whittle away. There's a Spiritomb, I think, with maximum damage on it on the bench. So that's ready to go. Just a few more ticks and it's ready.
I mean, you've got to just go Spiritomb this turn. Yeah, fine, it might not end up working out. It doesn't really matter.
Oh! Look at this. So we see Goggles and Intrepid Sword. The Zacian is out of range thanks to the Full Metal Wall.
Not entirely. With a single Galarian Zigzagoon, that will be in range of a KO.
There's Goggles, though. We've got the Goggles down, so we're safe, right?
Goggles means you need to do 280. Eternatus maxes at 270. So 1 Galarian Zigzagoon.
Yeah, but the Goggles stops the Goon, right?
Oh, of course.
Stops the ping.
Oh, I thought I had the master. You're absolutely right, Joe. That was very dumb of me, and I apologise. It's
still,
actually a long way off.
Yeah, the Intrepid didn't get him any draw supporters. No way out of this Zamazenta. So the line is still here for Matthias. You can just swing with Spiritomb and hope here. Crushing Hammer could be huge as well. Ooh. Venomous Fang coming in again.
So I don't mind this. The problem is you need energy at this. And I don't think there's actually an energy attachment anywhere. Because now, and that's the thing, you know, as much as, hey, look, there's someone I can attack with Eternatus. Well, you kind of don't have any energy on Eternatus anymore, do you? That's a problem. And it is a 2-hit KO because of that silly thing I missed. So that is a bit of a problem.
Let's see if Zacian can finally bail Alan out here. Looks like we are going to see a boss's orders to try and force Matthias to have additional switch cards in their hand. Only sat on 4 here. Even if it forces a Marnie, you're not too upset. Possibly now you are a little bit because you're finally drawn into the Birdkeeper.
Now Spiritomb hits 100. Oh, it's going to be 10 short.
Yeah, just
Spiritomb can hit for 100, and then with a 10 poison, we'll go to 220, and that is not enough. And we know they can't use Galarian Zigzagoon. I'm on that one. Plus, there's no bench space to be
Board
fair.
full right now. Yeah, true.
Oh, so Matthias is... Oh, my goodness, we've got the switch. Oh, with just an energy attachment. And the problem is... If Alan didn't have a switch, this would be fine, but he does. Having said that, it is just a switch. So Boss's Orders energy will actually win the game next turn.
Let's see. Okay, that doesn't change anything. How many switches are gone for Matthias? It could just be a last boss's orders onto the Eternatus VMAX again. Got to have a look at that discard pile, because this could be both players just down to the end of their resources.
It really could. We got
Switch
free
is gone.
Switch. So
That's
I believe
all of them.
I was going to say, I'm fairly sure Matias is playing 4 here. Yep, I've just checked the deck list. There are 4 in the deck. So Switch, Boss's Orders, Energy will actually give Matias a win. We could... Oh, no, we don't even need Boss's Orders, sorry. It is literally just Switch Energy, and that will be the win. So
This
that
allows
means
Matias to access the entire deck as well. They can research if it's in the bottom 3. They can Marnie if they're happy. There's the 4th Switch.
There's the Switch.
It's finally
And there's
time.
the
Research it all away. Let's see if there's enough energy, please.
And there is the energy. We finally see a Zamazenta actually being KO'd. And it was a bit of a slog, and it was not an easy thing to do. But Matias actually takes down that Lucario and Melmetal's Ashen deck with Eternatus, and we finally saw an actual win that wasn't just a 1 KO win. We saw a Zamazenta get KO'd.
Yeah, that's really surprising, to be honest with you. There was no healing involved. Many turns where we could not see the Zacian come down. No Intrepid Sword value. It really got knocked out pretty early by Matias. It's what you have to do in this matchup. And yeah, paid off really well. So many dead draws for so many turns for Alan meant that, you know, that was able to get whittled away. The Zamazenta just stuck in the active for so many turns, bossed up by Matias, the one that had no energy, so you're not getting hit back with your Crobats and stuff like that. So yeah, really nice. Identified his win condition. Low probability, but you got that chance, and we finally saw Spiritomb do something. It can deal damage.
Hey, I love that Spiritomb. It was really, really well done. I mean, once again, you know, we keep praising Matias' play, but it really is strong all throughout the games we've seen, planning several turns in advance. And let's be clear, Alan played that game beautifully. We saw Boss's Order stalling at exactly the right time. We saw the Zacian coming down only when there was no energy on any Eternatus, so it was pretty safe. We saw really good plays, absolutely playing the odds, and it didn't work out. But I think that's one of those games when Alan's going to sit there and be like, you know what? I did everything I could. I played well. I took my chances when I needed to. I played that game well, and it just didn't work out. It happens. I still think Alan's going to go into this final game being like, yeah, I feel really good about this.
Yeah, you still have to feel okay. I mean, he had just a poor number of top decks and quite a large number of top decks where things weren't helping him out. Any switches whatsoever would have been great at that point. He plays a really high Birdkeeper count for that exact reason as well. So you kind of just have to brush yourself down and get into this third game knowing that you're still pretty favored in the matchup.
Absolutely. Well, let's head on into that third game then and see which of these players is going to be able to bring it home. It's going to be an exciting one because we've been pretty much, you know, learning from yesterday that this matchup is borderline unwinnable for Eternatus. Well, maybe that's not true if you just get that little bit of luck. Alan there actually does start with a Zacian and the Lucario and Melmetal, so there are some decent early turn options, but it's going to be Intrepid Sword for a couple of turns, it looks like.
Yeah, and you don't mind going first with this sort of deck. You can just get yourself additional draws. Especially in this matchup, you like to have extra Intrepid Sword value. You're happy starting basically any Pokemon in this matchup apart from your H/V, which you're playing. You do get the benefit of some mulligans as well, which is going to help out a little bit here. And we do kick off with the Lucario Melmetal coming down into play. We are going to see immediately the Cape of Toughness going on to the Zacian. We're actually seeing potentially energy to the active here. Going aggressive, you have the chance to just Intrepid Sword and Energy card, and then you're putting the pressure on out the gate.
Yeah, if you hit one off that Intrepid Sword, you've got an energy in hand. That is a KO on Eternatus, and I like this. And we do see an energy off the Intrepid Sword. That is huge. So we are legitimately threatening it. This is not supposed to be the aggressive Zacian build, but we are threatening a KO here very quickly.
Yeah, and typically you associate the Eternatus player being the one to just take a swift KO and win the game, but Zacian can do it too. We do see the energy drop on Eternatus, gets swiftly out of the active position with that switch into Evil Tal, so he's a little bit more protected. But Alan is holding on to Energy Boss, so he could just be taking an energy off the board here and taking a nice 2-prize KO. Great tempo from him.
Yeah, really. There is a second boss in hand, but there isn't. Oh, here's a Crushing Hammer. It's a Tails. That's not ideal. One of the mulligan hands we saw from Matias actually had 3 Crushing Hammer in there, so that would have been pretty handy right about now. But it really is looking like a strong start for Alan here. And this is a very bad position for Matias. You are expecting to have these Ashen drawing a bit and then giving up a couple easy prizes. You are not expecting it to rush you early game and start taking multiple prizes. It's kind of a nightmare scenario, to be honest with you. It is the backup plan that is actually working too well.
Yeah, it's going brilliantly. We are just going to see the 30 damage prod from Eternatus, getting that power accelerator, the energy to the back, which is pretty handy. But let's face it, there's going to be 2 prizes coming in swiftly for Alan here. There's also more draw that can be had. You can go ahead and Cynthia Caitlyn if you'd like to. There's also the option to Guz Mahala if you just want to get more tools established. So, yeah, looking pretty good for him so far. Still no sign of the Zamazenta. You always want to attach a coating metal energy, so you won't Guz Mahala for any captures just yet.
Yeah, Zacian, unlike Zamazenta, does have a free metal energy attack cost. So whereas you can afford to put a capture energy onto a Zamazenta, you can on Zacian, not without giving up an attack. So we do see the coating metal energy come down, take a KO on that Eternatus. And honestly, at this stage, Alan wants a bunch of switching. There is a Lily's Pokédoll, and if there's any kind of switching card, we could see another KO next turn. And I mean, going up 4 prizes super early, that's not really what this deck is supposed to be doing in this matchup. And if you're getting that going in addition to your regular plan, that is going to be amazing. Having said that, as much as that power heater did give up a 2 prize KO for Matias, we could see an Eternatus VMAX KO on that Zacian, putting Alan down to a pretty uninspiring board position.
Matias with a pretty creative turn, spending that switch into Evil Towel early, just so they can draw an additional card from Crobat. Let's see where it can get them. They can try and respond attack into this Zacian V with Eternatus VMAX. There's 1 energy on the bench thanks to that power accelerator last turn. So if you can respond KO on Zacian, that could be a huge deal here. You are asking for a lot, but there is still a supporter that can be played here.
Absolutely. And that Galarian Zigzagoon can actually do something because it's talking about a giant cape, not a metal goggles. So it is on the board potential. And I like this because we're building up damage on that benched Lucario and Melmetal. Of course, after a GX attack, you actually come in 20 damage short of a KO. I believe that is now 20 damage from the Galarian Zigzagoon, which means it's back in 1-hit KO range, if that counts as 1 hit.
Huge Marnie here as well. This is awesome. If Matias can achieve this KO whilst also removing the option of Intrepid Sword for future turns, this could be a short-run game, you know. If he can achieve this knockout, you leave a Lucario Melmetal 1 attack away, and the only draw Alan has is Bird Keepers, which are unusable right now. So this could be a huge turn for tempo if there is an energy attachment at the end of this turn.
I think all we need is an energy. There is an energy at this stage, so we're currently hitting 240, which would... Is that going to be enough?
Yeah, there's already the 30 setup damage from Power Accelerator last turn.
Yeah, which would be absolutely perfect.
So there's the KO.
Literally the exact amount of damage you need to get that Zacian. The giant cake put it up to 270 from 220. So this is kind of it. Oh, it's just a Lily's Pokédoll. That does give access to Birdkeeper, though.
That's absolutely huge. What a draw, saving Alan in many ways here. We can try and even, if you want to go GX attack, you even could do that now. There's the Saucer attach, reset the doll to the bottom if you want to.
I think you have to, because it gets rid of the energy. So I think this is absolutely huge. This is, oh my goodness, that was such a good top there. That was going very, very wrong. And you can even get, say, a Guzma and Hala here to try and get yourself, you know, something for future turns, get a capture energy for next turn, for instance. So, no, I like this an awful lot. It's going to actually really slow down. Matias was so close to ending this game.
Yeah, they don't know how close. That was a top-decked Lily's Pokédoll, and otherwise Alarm would have been completely stranded, so a very fortuitous draw at the end here. We are seeing the full Metal Wall come down for the full value for one of the first times in this series, where you do get to strip away all of your opponent's active Pokemon's energy if you have that additional energy attached onto your Lucario Melmetal. So for Matias, it's a rebuilding job this turn, attaching to the active, not really under any attacking pressure. So just trying to rebuild that Eternatus, it's still your best way through this Lucario Melmetal.
Oh, absolutely. The problem here, of course, with that metal goggles, it actually means that Eternatus now maxes out at 210 damage, which means that those little pokes from Galarian Zigzagoon that seem to put you in such a good position actually don't. We're still not seeing much draw at all from Alarm. We do not have a great position here at all, but will not get KO'd next turn, but it's a pretty short clock still.
I think based on your prizes, if you know that you have Pokemon or Capture Energies in there, Boss Spiritomb seems like the smartest play. You could have tried to do Boss and Trap plays into something, but if you think you have prizes that can help you out, the Steel Fist is certainly going to be helpful. You also thin the deck of an energy card. I think it's worth it because you're in top deck mode, so you can pull one of those bricks out. And you're also resetting the deck because you did get some supporters Marnie to the bottom. That means he now has the access to Guzma Hala from the top decks, which can get you into Capture Energy. Actually, kind of not take the energy here. That's really surprising. I think it's a really important thing to increase your odds. But look at that, Capture Energy from the prizes. That's an epic draw.
That is pretty huge. And it now, I mean, it's all coming down. It is literally just those metal goggles. If it wasn't for the metal goggles, we'd see Eternatus attacking and taking the victory here, assuming an energy in 2 more bench Pokemon. That is not the case as we see it at the moment. Unfortunately, it is it's starting to look like a long way back. This game, it keeps looking like Matias is in a position to finish it out. Alarm's draws don't look great, and it's everything. It's the full bench. I'm assuming an energy. There's the energy. That metal goggle's frustrating. So we do see a Marnie here, though. If this gets Alan nothing, that will be game for Matias.
Matias has really put the pressure on. Yeah, really put the pressure on. It's another Pokédoll, and Guzma Hala can grab Capture Energy. So this time Alan survives the Marnie.
Absolutely. Draws quite well off of it. Still not a great position. It does mean you're essentially going lone Zamazenta or double Zamazenta and kind of hoping. It's not a great position to be in, but with some damage reduction, with a GX attack on the board, with some healing going, it is possible. Not a position Alarm wants to be in, but your deck can still do what it's supposed to do in this matchup.
And let's see the Guzma Hala now. Going to grab that Capture Energy, of course. Also can grab Metal Goggles for your Zamazenta. There is also the Lily's Pokédoll coming in. So Capture Energy, obviously, for Zamazenta here. Pull that guy down. This is your best chance of mounting a comeback by just letting this go the long way round. But Matias does have a good amount of damage on the backup Spiritomb. There's still no cards really in Alan's hand. He's many turns away from Zamazenta. So if Matias can take the KO here and basically try and Grinch down the Zamazenta before it's ready to attack, you still have a good shot.
Absolutely. And I mean, the KO is a given at this stage. The KO is sitting there on the board. Oh, and that was very quick turn. Bit of Building Spike, bit of Dread End. And now this is getting interesting because now you do have the Metal Goggles and the Full Metal Wall. So that Zamazenta is taking 60 less damage. But Alan's got a 1-card hand. We know it's not a good hand. And Matias can start whittling it away. Again, we're not talking about some amazing plan here, but it is a plan, and we saw this matchup twice on stream yesterday. Those players would have loved to have a plan like this to be able to fall back on.
Let's see if Matias can switch out of the active and start swinging with the Spiritomb. That's got to be your priority this turn. Get the damage in while it's there, really shorten that clock, and give Alan only 1 draw, essentially. It's a big Professor's Research here. Can he get there?
We see the Building Spike. Do we have a switch? We do have a switch. Oh, this is getting interesting. We know that Zamazenta is not going to be attacking this turn. We also know it's not a 2-hit KO. So, unfortunately, we are still a turn away. But there's no way of getting that Zamazenta out the active at the moment. It's not getting out the active. There's no switching card, no Bird Keeper, no Mallow and Lana. Now, if Alan does top deck a Mallow and Lana, it is going to be oh, actually, no. Wouldn't have enough cards to actually do the healing because you need to discard to play the Mallow and Lana. So, it looks all right, but a basic energy allows that Eternatus to retreat.
I actually think you should be promoting the other Eternatus regular V here, shouldn't you? Because it's just, like you say, 1 energy to retreat. I feel like that Boss's Orders could have been a better choice. Depends on how many switches are remaining in the deck anyway. could be a moot point, but I think it's another Spiritomb hit coming in, and Alan has nothing going on in hand whatsoever. Matias could be getting there.
It's one hit away. A Crobat would... Oh, no, Crobat would not quite take the KO. The thing is here, you can KO the Spiritomb. How confident do you feel? Actually, there's nothing on Matias's board that's actually going to deal any damage right now. Having said that, oh no, a Spiritomb would still take 2 turns to get rolling. We could see 2 energy on an Evil Towel, would be 10 damage short. So I suppose you're talking 2 energy on a Crobat. So if nothing else, Alana's bought himself a couple of turns here. We're going to see the KO on the Spiritomb. And I don't think Matias has a way to respond here.
Let's have a look. I mean, can we see enough energy on the bench anywhere? I don't see any way that he's getting damage dealt to him. Can't really see the number of energy on the bench, but Alan seems convinced that the game's over in one way or another here. Matias only has 2 energy, 2 cards remaining in deck, now 1, but there's the Hooper! It's the Hooper coming in to close out the game.
Hooper comes in to close the game. If it comes active this turn, you do 90 damage, goes down to 30. 30 is the perfect number. And Matias did what we did not really expect to happen. We see a KO with a Hooper taking a legitimate 2-1 victory. There were no easy victories, no cheap victories there. Those were 2 hard-fought victories. And Alan had some bad draws and some bad luck, but let's take nothing away from Matias there. That game, all those games were played beautifully. It wasn't easy by any stretch of the imagination, but it worked.
Yeah, Alan went aggressive in that game.